Yeah, that clicking of the okay.
Got it. Okay.
Awesome. So I'm really excited for this conversation about anger. I'm so glad you agreed to do this because it's an important topic and it's a fascinating topic, actually. And it's interesting because I don't know about you, but probably you the same. We were raised to believe that feelings are bad, like especially anger. Anger is like you are a heretic, like you're idol worshiper. Like my teacher said, like when you throw things in anger, it's like you throw it to the Avodah Zarah. And I used to like try to console myself when I fell through with this horrible thing of anger. I would like, okay, at least I didn't throw anything, you know?
I remember my mom used to say, or I heard a story that there was this Osgar Rebbe or something that every time he would get angry, he said 1 minute, and he had a special kasbekacha, special kasbekacha that like to not react when he gets angry, and he puts on the he goes to the room and changes the bekacha, and then when he comes out, the anger is dissipated because anger is like it's like instant it's an instant reaction. It's almost like an impulse that at the moment where you don't pause from feeling angry and the reacting, then there is this unconsciousness of like you're almost like you're possessed, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you catch yourself in that moment of awareness, then you can um, you can be sort of like not completely taken over by it and respond rather than reacting. Yeah, it's easier said than done because anger is such a strong force, and under all anger, like I come to realization that anger is just an expression of like so much hurt that has never been expressed, and this is hurt that has been shoved down, like, and from where I grew up, it's like a lot of feelings that like that and naturally a child's response is not to judge their feelings and to talk about it. But what happened was is that in my case is that kind of like I was brought up to be somebody that I'm not. Therefore, no feelings are allowed, no nothing. This lifestyle is where you keep shit inside. And out of like, I just couldn't take that way of living. Even at the age of 10, I didn't know exactly what is wrong, but I felt like something's really off, and I don't feel like I belong here, you know? So there's a lot of hurt feelings under anger that is like, in a sense, I don't even know what the feelings are anymore. So now when anger comes and I don't have that pause, I become possessed, and like, it's just like I could get impulsive. So it's very important to like stay with that awareness. And sometimes I get consumed by anger, but I'm aware I'm consumed right now. Like if even if it takes me over, I'm like I'm I'm anger is acting through me. It's like an entity. It's an energy field of like so much energy radiating off, just wanting to be expressed, wanting to be heard, and all that stuff. So back to you.
I love what you said. It's so, it resonates so deeply. It just reminded me on the night of my chuppah as a young bride, I was told in advance that this is the holiest day of your life. So whatever you say out of your mouth is almost like Tzaddik God is gonna do everything that you pray for. And they warned me that on this day, Satan is even more busy trying to get you angry because angry is the Avia Vasatima. So it's like
Yeah, it
you're
makes
gonna be
sense actually. It makes sense that In a moment that someone's angry, they're off their chart. So anyone could get to them. Like, try pissing off an angry person. It's not that hard. They're already angry before. They were just waiting for you to piss them off.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's really interesting because you're reminding me of something else. Like, where the subject of anger in general, like, we are so afraid to be the recipient of anger, right? Like, for somebody to attack you in anger is such a especially if you're a people pleaser, it's such a affront. It's such an assault on your inner child, but also like on how you on your identity, on how you feel about being a good person, right? And we were brought up like all the time thinking that we're not good because we're not measuring up to all these a million unrealistic rules, right? So it's almost like a trigger of all the things that we kept inside growing up, like being blamed for no good reason, for something that you innately should be praised for, basically. And it's like it reawakens all this injustice, when you're the recipient of anger. And sometimes that's also the guilt that comes when you express anger because you don't want to hurt the people that you love, right? And you feel as if like you project whatever you would have felt when you would have been attacked, and it feels like the end of the world that you gave that onto another person, right? It's like so
Yeah, that's a
demoralizing,
that's a very important, like what you touched on that right there. So like, as recipients now, we are kind of going through this like fine line balance where we see that we have the ability to be that angry person that was angry at me. And that's where it's like there's a resistance because I don't want to be like that person that pissed me off and like that I fucking hate, like, excuse me, I'm trying not to cuss.
no worries. This is only adults here.
Okay, so it's like it's a very fine line because I don't really understand, but I do this like meditation where I feel like for some reason all this anger came to me for a reason. Like, I was around a lot of angry people that had a lot of hurt under that, and to understand that I was around a lot of possessed people, and meaning to say that they were consumed by anger and their presence was no longer there. Little moments here and there, would sneak a little presence, but mostly consumed by anger and constantly manically following and reacting and reacting and reacting, building thought, living in the mind, living in the feelings, and never like really fully 100% attentive, not to your kids, not to the food that you're making, that maybe just to the food, but but the Hungarians, they have a special yeah. So what happens with all this unconscious energy, which in a certain sense my mom is a victim too, because someone passed that unconscious energy onto her, because as children, as babies, I mean, we are born into a world where we know no worries, because only in the brain is there worry, fear, and pain. If you really get into it and realize that we've been programmed to live from this microscopic little brain to like outwardly instead of living externally, and know that we have a brain as a tool, and literally like all fear and anger and feelings, like the brain feeds the feelings and the feelings feed the brain, and back and forth. And if there's no presence in your childhood, it's very hard that real life circumstances represent themselves to really know what to do, even if you want to do the right thing, even if you have good intention. Like, you never know, like, we're human. So to understand that this cycle has been passed down for millennia and generations, and in a certain sense, it's unconscious energy that, like, I've been questioning, like, do I return this energy to the sender, or do I transmute it into something positive? Meaning, like, the same way you recycle plastic and you make something, you recycle wood and you make something out of it. You take some seeds out of an orange that you ate and you put it in the ground. You take um um your tangerine peels and you use it as fertilizer for your garden. And just that giving and receiving and the yang and the balance and everything. Balance is very important, and it's a very hard it's very hard, even with awareness, seeing that how in what a reactive community and space I grew up, to still, like, even with the awareness, to, like, still, like, put myself in a place where don't react, or, like, if I feel like if I open my mouth, I'm gonna say something rude. So I'm just like, I try to be quiet, even if it comes off rude, like I'm ignoring the person, because it's just like, I know that my silence will be better than anything that will come out, because anger is sizzling inside me. So also knowing the onsets of anger, you know, there's onset feelings and there's triggers. You can sense when you're being triggered if you're there, if you're present. Anyway, back to you.
I love what you shared. Thank you. The idea of not reacting when you're angry. I actually saw a parenting advice that said, you can tell your child, I feel like screaming right now. There's so much anger in me. You're communicating. You're not saying all the things that you wanted to say, but at least you're letting it out. You're not keeping it inside. That helps also dissipate it,
Yeah, that's very important. If you have like a safe person that you feel safe with, where you could just vent and know that, like, this person is holding space specifically for your anger and is not going to react to it. But if you are in a place where someone is also, like, triggered, and there's two people triggered, one ends up reacting to the other, and it's just like back and forth, and the world is not fucking growing. It just keeps passing on, and all it takes is, like, one person to, like, pause, stop it, the chain of reaction, which is literally existed for, I don't know, hundred or thousands of years. Like, it's not new. It's not new. We might not have a whole lot of knowledge about it, but it's definitely not new. And it's definitely, because if it was new, there would be more understanding to it. There's definitely a lot of, like, missing puzzle pieces. Like, how did this come? Like, hey, Ma, you weren't abused. Like, you weren't beat. Why did you beat me? Like, oh, maybe you were beat by someone else. Like, there's so many puzzle pieces missing. And, like, the person that inflicted pain onto me or anger doesn't even know why they did it. How can I, like, I'm still angry at the situation, but the person in itself is just a victim passing on something that they couldn't handle to me. And I'm not sure I can handle it either, but I'm like trying to at least be more aware of it, and, like, not shove it down like it used to be, and, like, really work on having that pause before reacting. And if everybody knows how they get when they get angry. I know that I could get really wild, so I just, like, the moment I feel onsets of anger, like, I might yell, and then when I realize that I'm yelling, I'm like, holy shit, like, I'm getting taken over by this. Like, I have to walk away. I take a walk, like, I drink water, and it takes a while for me to calm down, because to calm down I have to face the trigger, because that anger was a trigger to, like, a way deeper emotion that I'm completely unaware of. And, like, so I go around and around till I face something, and I feel like it's safe enough for everyone else that I come back out.
I really admire that. I never got to that point yet where I can literally walk away and take and take like a walk, or take a pause, like take a time out. I used to read about it so much, and I used to think like, I wish I could do that. There's like a contradiction in my experience, because for years I used to shove it down, and then I went to the other extreme where I don't keep anything inside anymore. So there's like this instinct of like, yeah, I yell, but I am guarded not to do anything like personal, like not to yell anything like mean, just like, please don't do like stuff like that, you know? At the same time, what really helped me, because I'm also still figuring this out, right? We all have our own journey. What really helped me is to let go of perfectionism and not think that if I did yell, or even if I did say something that I regret, that it's the end of the world. Because when you really reconcile with somebody, when you really apologize from your heart, you have a chance to build a relationship that is a lot deeper than it was before you scream. It's not to obviously encourage people to scream, but it's to make people aware that you have so much capacity of growing in a relationship when you are not so hard on yourself about messing up, but rather understand that messing up is part of being human, and what really matters is not messing up, but what you do after messing up.
Yeah. That is the choice we have to how we want to respond to a situation, you know. I had taken a picture of me. Whatever you're saying is sort of value and sort of literally. Cool. Very humble. Very grateful. Very high conscious. So you pointed on something that I wanted to touch on, like the last like little bit. Can you get into that a little bit more? Like
so basically, I just a little background story. I had a cousin that lost her children. She left the Hasidic world. She lost her children, and she died of suicide. And before she passed away, she came to visit me and celebrate with me the bat mitzvah of my daughter, and that was a huge thing. I didn't know her in person from before. We met online, and we figured out that we were cousins. And she traveled like 9 hours each way, like drove alone, just to give us that feeling that family participated, because my own parents couldn't come to the bat mitzvah, right? It was not kosher enough, right? We made it in a Reconstructionist synagogue. So basically, after she passed away, I could have eaten myself alive to think that this person, she lost her children, she came all the way, and I didn't call her after she went back home. I didn't call her to keep contact, not because I didn't care. I wanted to call her a bunch of times. I called her maybe once or twice. Why didn't I call her? Because I was so freaking afraid of messing up. I seriously didn't know what to talk to her about, because she had lost her kids. What can I say that wouldn't hurt her more? Right? But if I had known then what I know now, that when you call up somebody in such a situation, you don't have to talk, and you can also communicate that you don't know what to talk, and ask them what they want to talk about. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I didn't know that. Why? Because perfectionism was so part of our upbringing. You have to be perfect. If you mess up, it's like a danger of losing everything, this world and the next world, you know?
Yeah, and I think what I wanted to touch on, what it boils down is to how to stop the cycle of like unconscious anger that is not even your feeling. Sometimes it's just like passed on by your mom because she programmed you, and like that's not even you, you know, and it was passed on by her mom or whatever. It came from somewhere. We don't know exactly where, but the point is there's a lot of anger that is not necessarily ours. So we don't have to like completely identify with it. Yet at the same time take accountability and responsibility that you're feeling this way. instead of like there's two people that are having a dispute and they're both triggered and they're unconsciously triggered. So they don't know that they're triggered, they're unaware of it. Therefore, they're unconsciously yelling at each other, identifying this yelling as like you're the problem, like the other is the problem. I'm right and you're wrong. So there's this conflict that is really between, like, from the outside it seems there's a conflict between two people, but all these two people are really yelling at themselves. Deep down they're all yelling at themselves because they're something came up, and it takes for one person to like say pause, like hold on, like that's not you, like you didn't piss me off, I feel pissed off right now because I witnessed you doing so and so, and therefore it triggered, oh, I realized it triggered like a feeling from back in the day that's affiliated with this and this memory, it really hurt me. And you talk about the trigger rather of getting into this like unconscious energy and like feeding it. And you know, it just takes one person to like veer off and let's see where this like, and this can only happen when you take responsibility and accountability for your feelings, and not saying you made me feel this way, I feel this way when I see you do so and so. So you don't make it about the other person. The moment you take responsibility and accountability, you're no longer a victim and you're no longer feeding off of this unconscious energy. So, and you have the ability to actually grow in that moment.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's really, I love how you articulated it, because I've heard this idea before, and obviously like accountability is all about having having agency in life, and if you're constantly the victim of everybody else's actions, then you're not your own person, right? You're just being driven
Yeah.
around by everyone. But I love how you articulated it, like spelled it out. I love when things for practical reasons are spelled out, how to actually do it, you know? So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. My pleasure. It's just like I feel like I can't talk to anybody about anger because I feel all I see is anger because maybe I'm angry. Like, you know, so it's not like at this point I'm thinking like, is the whole world angry or I'm just angry? Am I just really fucking pissed right now? And I'm just seeing that in everybody because I'm feeling angry. I'm just seeing everybody's like anger and beneath that hurt. So I'm like, oh my God, there's a whole world suffering out there. And like, holy shit, like I don't want to, I feel like overwhelmed. And yes, in a certain sense that a lot of people are suffering, but this has nothing to do with it. It's separate, meaning to say like if I the reason that I can't handle, like let's say seeing an angry occurrence or whatever, I can't put myself in that place is because of me, not because there's technically something wrong with that person, because everybody has their process and their journey, not because there's something wrong with the crowds, because there's just unconscious, there's not a space for me to heal there. So as long as there's no space for me to shift the energy, like I sit with myself, and if I can come to terms of what's under my anger, I realize there's layers and layers and layers of like, 10 years old, 11 years old, not, layers of feelings that are just like feelings in my body right now. And at this point, it's just not always when I get into it do I know where it originates from. It's just like, oh, like it goes deeper, it goes deeper, and it goes deeper. But reminding myself the beginning of my life when I came into this world, when my mom gave birth to me, I came in as a pure, innocent, wholesome, healthy child that doesn't know how to be angry or judge, that just knows how to be. And there was no, my brain was developed afterwards. First, I was. After that, I thought. And where I was, the influence was to let your brain, right? Which is, it could be saying like Kol Beisha, it's the voice of a woman, but like maybe it's saying that if you let your mayach be shada down the lev, then you're kind of messed. You're kind of going into the deep end, you know, because I don't. I'm going back now to the times where I'm like meditating, where I'm just a baby that just arrived into this world and I can't even see yet and I can't even smell yet. I can't talk. I can cry, but I don't know that I can cry, so it doesn't give me ego. I can't hear. So I'm just purely in existence. And I just like I like to like doze off in that feeling. And then when I feel like I'm ready to get out of it, allow that child, that unprogrammed child, to develop its own brain without, so your mind doesn't control you. You are the one that actually has a tool. Your mind's not using you as a tool. You're no longer possessed. That's how we were made to be. That's our original self. So then you come into your essence and everything works harmoniously. We just grew up in such turbulence and conflict. Like it's almost like you can't really blame anybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's like two things that you remind me. First, about saying that it's not a problem in the crowd and the other person. Let's just be perfectly honest. The world is really, really fucked up now, right? So everybody is suffering on some level. Some people have like extreme fear of what's to come. Some people are actually already suffering in repercussions of so much that already happened, right? And sometimes it's the collective energy that you feel. You know what I mean? It's not really, like you said, it's not even you having the anger. It's what we absorb from our environment. And then when you have on top of that our generational trauma from the Holocaust, it's, yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I have to say bye.
Okay. You have to say bye to me?
No, I had to say
Oh,
bye
okay.
to someone leaving.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you have to now say bye. Okay.
No, I just said bye to someone that was visiting and leaving. So
No
yeah.
worries. So basically, what I was saying is that there's also a lot of generational trauma, right? Like I had this incident where I came home and there was a big, 1 second. Zoom is telling me that the meeting is going to be over in 10 minutes. Does that make sense? We started at,
Yeah, because if you don't have an account, then you get 40 minutes, but sometimes it goes for longer. So you could just like wait till they cut you off.
okay, so if it gets cut off, should we start again?
And I think this is a really good start, and
We can do it
should
another time.
like we can continue till it stops, and to we could do another sesh at some point, and um, you know, see what comes up. Like there's a lot of information was spoken about, and a lot of topics were touched on, and I would want the recording of this so I can listen to it again, like to know, or you know, to piggyback off this, because I think that this is a really good start.
Yeah, I think so
Thank
too.
you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this. 'Cause,
Sure, it's
yeah.
really a pleasure. So I was saying that I was coming home and something spilled on the floor, and I was like, I just gave a bad move, right? And I was remembering how, as a kid growing up, I used to pride myself that I never get angry when things get spilled. And my mom, when things spilled on the floor, she used to be very frantic and like, oh my goodness, now we have to clean up the broken glass or whatever it is. And for me, every single time when my kids used to spill something, I was like, the brocha is in house, the gitzach brocha, and I thought it was my credit. But when this happened, that I accidentally spilled something, I realized that there might be some generational trauma because my grandma lost her little sister when she was 5 years old, I think. In Europe, when she was a little kid, she was playing and there was this big pot of hot milk on the counter. And she asked her sister to hold her on her shoulder so she can get some candy from on top of the counter. And you can just imagine what happened. And the child was burned through the milk that spilled. So the spilling was a generational trauma for my grandmother because she actually, her life was obviously a wreck through this story, right? Her little sister passed away from that, and the guilt that came with that and all that. So if my mom was initially out of sorts because something spilled, could have well be a passed on generational trauma from that. And eventually the concept of like and blessings are running over, that came after she got some help. So the fact that I'm taking it easy is actually her credit because she did the healing. So that's why when you said like we can transmute it or we should back to sender, it's like such a gift that we give, not just like even for people who don't plan to have ever kids, just in this generation that you're in, you're helping anybody you know to have that possibility that you gave yourself through transmuting, through healing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like so many things are happening inside. It's say be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
Yeah, that's what got me out of the community.
Mhm.
Because I initially I tried to change everybody inside. I was like
Right, that's
so
way too
passionate.
hard. It's
I
way
was
too
so
hard.
passionate and kept on getting pushed away. And I was like, why can't you all see what I'm seeing? Like, we need to change this. This is crazy. And then I realized what you're saying. Like, if I want something to change, I need to be the change that I want to see in the world. You know,
It's
otherwise,
up to every individual individually to like break away from, because what triggers you might not trigger somebody else. So everybody has their lineage and their just like individual process, the way they receive, like, let's say, could be like people that went through the same abuse that one has to do more healing than the other. Like it all depends on so many variables and it's so intricately connected, yet is really important to establish an individual healing with knowing that it's connected so many, but the healing starts by taking individual accountability and responsibility of oneself, and coming back to who we all always were, like before all of programming. No matter how much unprogramming you have to do, it's worth it, because to even get just a moment without that program is fucking blissful.
yeah, it
So
is. It is. And it keeps on shedding more layers. The more we practice that,
yeah, I think you're never
it's
done till you die. I mean,
exactly.
like, I think this is like, this whole world is like a recycling kind of like for like something else. Like, it's up to us, everyone individually. Like, I can't say like it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. It's up to the Christians. It's up to the Muslims. So it's up to everyone individually, not as part of a community. You as yourself alone in an island. I don't know where, but like just to be able to really establish an individual sense of self, um, and by that, like, we can connect better to others and not from the other way around where you're just a victim of someone's spider web, you know.
I like how you put it, someone's spider web. And it's interesting because it has both sides, right? We need to do the individual work, but we can't do it alone. Like, me talking with you is helping me in my journey, right? So interdependence is so important for the healing journey, because there's this whole individualism in the world, and people think that they have to be on their own figuring everything out, and it's not like that. It's, you have to do the work alone, but you also can benefit from community for support to enable that, you know?
Yes, if the space is set so, meaning, let's say, because this space was set to speak about a certain topic and speak about feelings, therefore, no matter what is being spoken here is already therapeutic, individually for you, individually for me, individually for anybody listening. So it's just like, yeah, we can be together as a community, but not like give a whole idea to like, now we're this one big, like, stay grounded, stay accountable, don't lean on anybody, like, yeah, know how to ask for the space if you need someone to hold space. I hope people have people to that they can go to where they know, like, listen, like, you can clearly say, like, I need to speak about my feelings. Like, it should be an okay thing for like a friend to like just listen. Right now, I don't want to conversate. Hey, Shifra, uh, I don't want to conversate right now. I just need a listening ear. Like, sometimes all we need is to just listen. And the moment the feeling that we're feeling is validated, dissipated. And if like, let's say I keep going on and on and on and on, I'm not really ready to face it. If I speak and you validate, or like something else is lacking there, therefore it's not conclusive. But definitely what you're saying is a very fine line to know how to have an individual sense of self and still um, know that you have community and support where all of you is accepted, meaning that you don't have to fear that you're going to be possessed by anger, because you know that the people know you, they got you, and it's a safe place to get angry, and they would take you deeper into the root of the anger. They wouldn't like feed off it, like, you know. And yeah, and if you don't have that space, I feel like till then, like, quarantine. There's
Team
like
Miklat.